Welcome to Ram and Goat Astrology. Join Helena and me, Laura Lee, each week as we take you on an explorative journey of astrology and health, reading charts, talking planetary energies, while educating and entertaining you. We help you navigate the mysteries of the stars and how they affect you personally. Here we go. Hello.
Good.
I'm
Hey. So
Laura
we're just
Lee.
talking.
This
Oh, sorry.
This is Ram and Goat Astrology. We're just chatting and chatting.
We already started, and we thought we might as well record this because
We're
there's
chatting
also
about
some
Pluto stuff.
fun things. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're
So this
actually
is
talking about Pluto right now.
so this is episode 9 or 8.2, I guess, if you the second part,
Yeah, 8.5.
8.5. We were just talking about Pluto transits and how sometimes people can feel really scared by them or really
Mm.
overwhelmed by them, or it's all doom and gloom because Pluto's darkness and transformation. And I was just telling Helena I'm having a Pluto square Pluto right now, exact. So Pluto in the
Mm.
sky is currently 26 degrees Capricorn, and my Pluto in my natal chart is 26 degrees Libra. And those happen to be in my natally, it's in my fifth house of children and fun. And in the sky, it's in the eighth house of rebirth and renewal and transformation, ruled by Scorpio.
Mm.
And you could really look at that as a really scary thing. Oh. But really, what's happening is I'm having to transform how I function in my family with my children. And I'm currently almost 15 weeks pregnant with my fifth.
Mm.
So there's transformation right there. And the kids and their father and I had a very intense discussion yesterday morning, very intense, about them stepping up and being more responsible and following through on their tasks and not making messes in the house. And they're 13, almost 11, and 9. So plenty old enough to make these choices, right? And to
Mm.
not make these giant messes and not be irresponsible. So we are asking them to transform and to rebirth and renew themselves. And I had to tell them, listen, there's another human coming. And I will not play this game. I'm not going to keep hounding you. And I hate doing the helicopter parent thing,
Mm.
like that's not me. I'm very hands off. Let me teach you how to do it. Let me show you how to do it. Now you do it. Okay, now it's your responsibility, right? And my kids are strongly independent, like their mother, and they just don't think to look behind themselves and pick up, and it's just like a trail of mess everywhere, which is, I understand that happens once in a while, but
Yeah.
times 3 kids plus a toddler
Plus a new one coming.
plus a new one coming. So yesterday was a very intense transformation conversation with their father and I, and we were raising our voices, but it wasn't out of control or anything. And I even told the kids, I was like, do you think we're being out of line or getting out of control? And they're all like, no.
No.
Do you think you've kind of been acting like an asshat? And they're like, yeah. Well, okay.
And also because Pluto is now going back retrograding, and I asked you, so what happened around 2 years ago? And you said,
I had a baby.
yeah. So when Pluto was at this degree last time, you had a
Last time.
baby.
Yeah.
Now it's retrograding back, and you're having a
Having
baby.
another one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So it's I think it's very interesting how it's transiting this fifth house of children and squaring my natal and fifth house of children and the eighth house of like, hey, you get to transform yourself again.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a scary thing. I mean, yeah, it's overwhelming sometimes and the pressure can be intense and the energy is definitely like a subterranean energy, right? Like it's an
Mm.
undercurrent. But overall, I think it's a beneficial thing because it's this maturing process that needs to happen in everybody's life.
Yeah.
But I
For
know a lot
sure.
of parents, a lot of people who do astrology really can doom and gloom a lot of Pluto transits and Pluto energy,
Yeah.
and they make it
Yeah.
a lot darker and more miserable than I think it needs
Mm.
to be.
Yeah. We were talking about this too before we hit record, about how with astrology, it can be a little tricky talking about it with people who don't know that I don't who are not so who don't know so much about astrology yet, because people tend to get scared, super scared of some things. And that is just basically you need to learn that astrology, different astrological events and transits bring an energy of something. It doesn't mean if Pluto is coming and it's crossing your moon or something, it doesn't mean that you will die or something. It
You'll
doesn't mean that
emotionally die.
you will emotionally die, even though I sort of did when that happened to me, but that could happen.
Right.
But it can bring, it can show its face in so many different ways, and you always have to know, you just need to know that, and looking at the transits for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually get ahead,
Mm-hmm.
and if you know what energy is coming, you can work with it and you can observe it.
Yeah.
And yeah, really just work with that energy
And we
instead of
had
being
the biggest transformation I think I've experienced with a Pluto transit is my husband has a chart where Pluto is literally gonna in his lifetime it'll transit over the top of most of his other planets, so he gets
whoa.
to just kind of keep transforming and rebirthing himself.
Do you remember what planets is going across?
Well, the one that we really struggled with absolutely the most, and I was listening to a podcast the other day about this, was when Pluto was transiting his Venus. And his Venus is in the eighth house for him.
Yeah.
And so Venus represents relationships. And now him and I have been together since we were 16 and 17. And at this time, it was in 2018, end of 2018, early 2019. And our marriage at that time, we had kind of played around with an open marriage and stuff for a little while. But we decided to close the marriage after, like, we experimented. And then there was some resentment that was built up, and then some infidelity happened, and then lies, which Pluto rules lies and secrets, right?
Yeah.
And because I was studying astrology and because I knew this transit was happening for him, I was aware of it. Now, I didn't know how it would show up, but I knew what was happening. I knew the energy that was around us, and you could feel it. You could feel this kind of disconnect between us. You could feel him struggling within his own self and who he wanted to be within relationship. And it wasn't just with me, it was with work relationships and his family relationships, and it was all across the board. And what ended up happening was our marriage pretty much everything just got destroyed, almost like you picture a forest fire that breaks everything, burns everything down except for like one tree or one house, right? And that one thing is left standing. And I feel like that was him and I. Like we were like clinging to each other after everything just crumbled around us. And it was number one, because of our longevity, and number two, because I understood the transit, and number three, because we have a lot of other spiritual and deeper connections. But it was one of the hardest things him and I have ever gone through. And what it really asked of us was to really examine who we were as a unit and reconfigure that. Like what we were doing was not working, how we were functioning was not working. And Pluto is like, hey, bitches, look, this is not working. You need to change.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for us in this Venus Pluto transit, which is a hard transit, it really caused everything to disintegrate. And we held on by a thread. Like we held on by a thread. And I have a very interesting connection with spirit, and I get, intuitive hits. And I knew there was two little babies in a spirit waiting room. And Saffron, who's now 20 months, was very clear. She was like hunkered down, like in spirit waiting room, like right here on my left shoulder, like eating popcorn, like watching our whole family, like watching a movie. And I heard her very clearly one day when we were really having hard conversations. There was tears. It was just a really emotional day. And we were going through, all of the hurts and all of the everythings. And I heard her very clearly as I was just sitting on the end of the bed crying. And she said, if you want me to come, you need to fix this, or you need to work on this. And it was, she said, if you split, I don't show up. If you stay, I show up. And it was that voice, it was that hope, that thing that I held on to. And it was a really tiny sliver of energetic thread that I was like clinging to,
Yeah.
and it got us through. And we are probably better off now than we've ever been.
Yeah.
And we have better connection. We have open and honesty, with each other, honest communication, and it's been fantastic. But we had to go through some dark shit. Like
Yeah.
really dark shit. You don't stay together with somebody for 23 years and start in your teens and not go through some dark shit. Like you just don't.
Mm.
And that was probably the worst, and I hope it's the worst that we have to go through, right? But that was a tough time. But knowing the transit and knowing the energy of that transit was so crucial to
Mm.
me understanding what the
Yeah.
heck was happening, you
And
know?
also you can see that it will end. You can look at it and you can see, well, okay, this will last another
Six
year
months or,
or
yeah.
another 6 months, and I can do this because I see there's an end to this. This too shall pass.
That's really a huge component of it. Huge
Yeah.
component.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
going, okay, I got until December 9th or whatever it is. And
I can do it.
you can hang on that long and you can get through it. And we saw, we were in marriage counseling, we were in, we were reading all of the books we could. We were really putting in the work to do the transformation. And I think that's a crucial component too. It wasn't just me, it wasn't just him. We both made the recommitment,
Mm.
the transformation. And yes,
Mm.
it was me helping because he was the one majorly experiencing the transit. So I was definitely like holding his hand and helping him, right? But it was us doing it together. And I think Pluto, I don't know, I just don't have a fear of Pluto the way a lot of people do because I've seen the energy of it and I'm currently experiencing it. And
Mm.
yes, having a baby is transformative. And yes, there's a part of me that will die and a part of me that will renew and grow when I have another child. Like there's no
Yeah.
way not to, you
Yeah.
know? But I think it's part of the growing process of being a human that's required on this planet.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Got to
For
do
sure.
it.
I
Just
sort of think of this of Pluto transits as when you see a plant or a tree that's almost dead, like you see all of those leaves that just want to come off, and you go and you shake it, and everything like just starts falling off. And then when you're done, like really shaking it hard, there might be like a few leaves left there, and that's a Pluto transit
I love that.
to me. Yeah,
I love that. I have
something
tons
like
of
that.
house plants and I love that analogy because there is a season for even house plants where like all of a sudden all the leaves are dying and you're like, what's
Yeah,
going on? What am I doing wrong? Nothing. That's what the plant's supposed to do. Just pick off
yeah.
the dead leaves, give it the love it needs, and let it renew itself.
Mm.
It's not a bad thing. You don't get
It's
mad at the colors and of the leaves changing in fall. Like, how dare you, leaves?
yeah,
Why are
and
you
isn't it?
turning orange?
Yeah, it's so interesting, like with nature, because right now in the northern hemisphere it's fall and it's so beautiful outside. It's like it almost hurts my eyes. It's so pretty and it's changing every day, and we find it so beautiful, but it's death.
It's
It's
death.
death. And I just wish that we could bring that into, I don't know, to
The
the
idea
way
of
we
that
view.
beauty. Yeah,
Yeah,
I get that. Yeah, I was
yeah,
driving to my events this weekend for work, and my son was with me. We're driving, and I'm like, Elliot, look at that. Whoa, look at the colors. Look at the reds. Whoa. And
yeah,
he's like, you're so funny. And I'm like, I'm a look at the sunset and the moon and the leaves kind of gal.
yeah.
But man, the colors are just astonishing. And
It
it
is.
is amazing to see how beautiful death really can be.
Yeah, and isn't it like, because I find it almost so then it's like it's actually before dying, it just radiates, it becomes more beautiful. Do you think that before beings die, we glow? We have like a some sort of glow?
I do. I do. In
Yeah.
fact, one of the things I'm studying because I'm so interested in 12th house energy and Pisces energy with my Mercury in Pisces and then my moon in the 12th house, I'm so fascinated with 12th house stuff. And one of the readings I had when I worked with my friend Mary Louise, who we'll have on our show here soon, she reads the Akashic Records. And for those of you who don't know, the Akashic Records are records of like all time, like all souls and all of their incarnations. And some spiritual people have access to these records to help people along their journey,
Mm.
whether it's giving them little bits of information or whatever. And she told me, I am here to help with the work of Dolores Cannon. And I was like, I don't know who Dolores Cannon is. Let me look into that. Well, Dolores Cannon was one of the founders and pioneers of helping with people understand what past life regressions are. So she would
Whoa.
put them into a hypnotic, position, a hypnotic stance, and she would access their subconscious. And they would tell her about past lives or when they were in spirit realm and all of that. And I'm listening to her book right now, Between Death and Life. Fascinating book, where she just has, it's just her encounters with people in these hypnotic states.
Hmm.
And they talk a lot about transitioning into and out of the body and that kind of glow that you just discussed. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, I'm
It's so
literally into that right
fascinating.
now.
Yeah. And like I just started thinking about fungi as well because well
Mm.
that's sort of after death. No, hang on. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So no. So yeah, after we die, everything that dies becomes fungi, like on the
Yeah,
insides.
the
So that's afterwards.
decomposition of it. Yeah,
So that's sort of so fungi is sort of the road or the bridge from the body
nature.
to the nature
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like to spirit world as well.
Well, there's even new companies coming out with they have burial pods now where you can be put in this pod and then a tree will grow from it.
I love that.
And I was like, that is up my alley. Like, how,
Yeah.
sign, I'd like to be a maple tree, please, right? Like, sign me up. How do I
Yeah.
do this? And I think it's fascinating instead of having a cemetery filled with headstones and concrete, having a cemetery filled with
Beautiful
trees.
trees.
You
Oh
know,
my god.
right?
That's amazing. That's amazing. We could solve world hunger, I was going to say.
Right? Right?
But yeah, I and before when like a couple of years ago, I used to be scared of death and I found it really creepy to like be put in the ground and I was like, no, I want to be burned because I don't want anything to eat me.
Okay.
Uh,
Yep.
and I was also funny about like when I die, I didn't want to donate anything from my body because I was like, no, that's so weird. But now, I'm like, take everything. And also, I really want to be eaten. So just put me in the ground as I am or something. Or like one in those pods that will make you deteriorate faster, put
Yeah.
into a tree, something like that. I just want to be turned into earth.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting how you shifted and transformed?
Yeah.
So, when we left off on our last episode, we left off with a Libra transit. So, if you were seventh house transit, and I think it's appropriate that we dive into the eighth house transit of
Shall
Scorpio.
we?
Like
All right.
how appropriate of a segue here. So the houses
All right.
again, for those of you who are just learning all of this, the houses are there's 1 through 12, and they're like little slices of pie, and the houses, the sizes of the house and where they fall are determined based on your birth time and your location on the planet. And if you're further north in the hemisphere or further south and you are closer to the summer solstice or the winter solstice, the houses will be various sizes. So like Helena has a very large first and seventh house. She was born very far north and right in close to the middle of summer.
Mm.
And so my husband has very large houses as well in specific areas, and he was born in the northern hemisphere right 2 days after the winter solstice. So it really makes a difference based on birth time and location. So it's okay if your houses are different sizes. That's totally normal.
Yeah.
Some astrologers like to use the whole house system, which means each house lines up exactly with each sign. I think that's almost like a newbie or a beginner kind of astrology where everything's very cut and dry and clean. That's totally fine if you'd like to play with that. It feels too clean cut for me. Life is not clean cut, and it has a lot of flow and mishmashing and energies that mish together and mash together, right? So I personally don't ascribe to whole house systems, but it's fun to kind of play around and see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So eighth
Agreed.
house is the house that's ruled by Scorpio, and Scorpio and Pluto are together,
Buddies.
right?
Best buddies.
Best buddies. So if you have a Pluto in your eighth house, or if Pluto is transiting your eighth house, like for me, you're going to deal with transformation. That is
Mm.
what is being asked of you. Transformation. What else you got for eighth house stuff there, Helena?
All right. So I've been reading from this book, last episode and this episode too. It's called The Book of Pluto: Finding Wisdom in Darkness, by Stephen Forrest. And
I love that
Stephen's,
subtitle so much.
yeah, Finding Wisdom in Darkness. It's truly what Pluto is.
Hmm.
Darkness.
That's fantastic.
But around, okay, this doesn't fit in. But I heard a really good song song lyric the other day, and it said,
I
uh, "Around, darkness gathers around the light,"
Yeah,
and it's actually, that's really nice.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. It might have to do with this in some way. So he says about Pluto in the eighth house. The eighth house arena is sexual bonding, healing, dealing with the dark. And he says that the eighth house pits are emotional isolation,
Hmm.
brooding, despair, and just isolation.
That makes so much sense for what my husband and I went through back in 2018. Like
Mm,
all those words fit
yeah.
perfectly. He was very brooding. He was very much isolating himself to try to figure out what his needs were. He kept saying over and over, I just want to be alone. I just want to run away. I want to run away from it all. I just want to escape. He kept
Yep.
like needing this to like get away. And I was like, you can't. You have responsibilities and children.
Mhm.
Like you can't run away. If you do, I will find you. So stop.
You can run, but you
Come
cannot
after you.
hide.
But that was very much his urge was just to like he just wanted to get out, just get
Mm,
away. And it was so overwhelming for him, which is so opposite his Capricorn being of service to people.
mm,
So it was a tough time, and his Venus and his Sun and Mercury are all in Capricorn. So he was going through this really tough, hard. Capricorn is hard. It's stubborn,
mm.
right? It's an Earth sign, so it was a
Yep.
tough transit. But that makes sense. Eighth house also, I like to think of rules intimacy. So you said sexual connections, intimacy, therapy is falls under this house as well, and we sought therapy a lot,
Mm,
and it worked. It was helpful, and I highly recommend all couples do therapy. I don't think we would still be married if we hadn't. We've done therapy at least 3 different times in our marriage for a couple months at a time. It's
mm.
so helpful. I should go back and check the transits of when
Yeah, yeah,
we've
yeah.
done
That'd
therapy.
be very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I got actually when I had Pluto transit my ascendant and moon, I was 27, 8, something like that. But it lasted for a long time.
Yeah.
And when I turned 30, my sister actually gave me, because I guess you could see that I was just miserable and like going through a lot. For my birthday, when I turned 30, she gave me therapy sessions.
Nice. That's a
And it was
great
the best gift.
gift.
Yeah. Like for someone going through a Pluto transit,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a great gift. That's a
give
really
them
great gift.
therapy sessions.
For sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
this house really is the death and rebirth and renewal house. And when you say the word death, people immediately freak out. Immediately.
Mm.
And I have
Yeah.
to let them know, listen, there are thousands of ways you can interpret death.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean physical. It could, but it does.
Mhm.
That's not usually what it represents, right? But it's usually a part of you or a type of what you've been doing
Yeah.
needs to die, right? Like we were
Exactly.
talking to our kids yesterday. What you guys have been doing isn't working. It needs to die. Quit
Yeah.
doing that shit. It's time to renew into something else and transform. And that is
Yeah.
eighth house energy. So that makes sense that Pluto is in my eighth house and natally in my fifth house of children. I am asking my children to transform. And in
Mm.
turn, I have to transform with them so we can create this new trust and this new intimacy, which is
Mm.
all eighth house stuff, and
Yeah.
have fun again because lately we haven't been having fun, and fifth house is all about fun, and I don't really even want to be with them lately.
Oh.
Like, it's just not fun because when you're doing the transformation process, it's a process,
Yeah.
right? And again, recognizing that it's a time frame and it will end and we will
Mm.
have fun again. And it's okay. I'm not beating myself up that I don't want to be with my kids. It's okay. I will like them again.
I think there's more people like you. I'm pretty sure there's more parents who
Right?
think that.
I will like them again, I'm sure. Just right now, I won't. It's okay. I like them occasionally.
Yeah.
But
What's brooding? What does brooding mean? I
brooding
don't
is
know.
when you really like fixate on something and you get like grumbly and you're
Oh,
down in this like Cancer energy can get pretty broody. And I don't know, you'll hear of the term a
oh,
brood.
brooding over something.
Yeah. Yeah, so like
Okay.
chickens can get broody where they sit on a nest and they want to hatch their eggs, and if you go to remove them or remove the eggs, they get real crabby and they'll peck at you and they'll
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
balk at you and they kind of
Yeah.
complain. That's the broody energy.
Oh, okay.
Leave me alone. Go away.
Hmm.
Yeah. Leave me
Hmm.
broody
Yeah,
chicken.
because I have Pluto in the eighth house.
Natally you do.
Natally. Yeah. So this is my natal Pluto position right
So
in the
how's
eighth
that
house.
shown up for you in life with your natal position there?
I feel like on the outside, because of other aspects in my chart, I'm not this. You can't see the Pluto thing about me, but the places and the circumstances I feel most comfortable are. I mean, you saw how excited I was talking about death.
Yeah.
So pretty much
Yep.
that explains it. And I love these. I love intensity. I don't like drama. I
No.
don't like drama, but I
There's a
love
difference between drama and intensity. I feel like drama
yeah.
is more like the Leo realm.
Yeah, I really hate intensity. No, so
Drama.
drama.
Yeah.
I love intensity. But
And
of
I
course,
imagine you really like to talk about the taboo subjects
I
that other
love it. It's the
people like
most
to talk about.
interesting. It's the most interesting. But also, Scorpio is a very secretive sign, and I have Pluto in Scorpio.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love talking about it, but I will not go and talk about it with anyone.
No. There's got to be a trust. That
There's
eighth house rules trust, and there's got to
yeah,
be a trust that's built over time
yeah.
that you know you can be vulnerable with them.
Mm,
You know you can talk intimately in that intense way about these tough subjects, and you're not going to be judged or ridiculed. It's
yeah,
very important.
yeah.
Yep. Also, another thing to talk about too is eighth house also rules taxes and inheritances and
I
other
think
people's money.
you're reading my mind because I was just sitting here. Actually, I was thinking because I've been having trouble. Like in my life, I've been having trouble paying my bills. Not because I don't want to, not because I don't have the money, but things happen. Like I lose them, I forget, just silly things,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm in trouble with like tax. Just the other day, someone called me and from the tax whatever company, and they're like, "Oh, we need your answer on the company you have."
Oh,
And I'm
interesting.
like, I thought I shut down that thing 2 years ago. I didn't even realize I still had a company. I still had a business.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, so definitely.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Is the taxes and inheritances. When I was having a transit, I was having something go through my eighth house, and it said this is a time when you might get an inheritance or a windfall of money. And my dad actually ended up giving us me and my two brothers, very unexpectedly, a large inheritance. He said, "I'd rather have you have this now while I'm alive, and you can use it versus waiting until I die." Right?
Mm,
And it was very, very helpful for us at the time, and basically helped us kind of reset our entire life.
mm.
And I just find it so interesting that I was looking at this transit and it's like, oh, you might expect a large sum of money. And I was like, thanks, astrology.
Yeah,
So helpful.
yeah. No, for sure. It does for sure deal with like the others' money, but also, yeah, like taxes are sort of others' money. It's yours, but also other people's money.
Yeah.
But you have to pay them.
Yes. Yes. Other people's money. That's it. It's not your money. Second house is your money.
Yeah,
Eighth house is other people's money.
yeah.
So interesting. So yeah, Scorpio in the eighth house, or I mean Pluto in the eighth house, is a fairly comfortable position. Actually, it's kind of where it likes to be. So you have a nice Scorpio, Pluto, eighth house position. It's like, it's kind of just
Yeah.
like putting on a good pair of shoes that just feel right.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels comfortable. It
Yeah.
really does. Yeah.
Well, when we move on into the ninth house, we are now in the house that's ruled by Sagittarius.
We are.
And now we get into, instead of darkness and broodiness, now we get into optimism and
Yes.
curiosity
Yeah.
and all of the things that are travel and learning and philosophy, all of the like kind
Very
of
joyous.
fun things, right?
Yeah.
So, what happens when Pluto is going through the fun house?
All right. The ninth house arena, the quest for truth, and the ninth house pits, fanat fanaticism. Is that how you
Yep.
say it?
Yep.
And nihilism.
Nihilism.
Mm.
New word.
Nihilism. Isn't that when you think you can do everything yourself?
Yeah, and Sagittarius, I was just reading about it the other day. They're stupidly optimistic.
Yeah, they are.
Stupidly optimistic. In fact, Philip and I were watching a travel show called Long Way Up with Ewan McGregor, and he's taking a motorcycle trip from the south tip of South America all the way up. And the people on his crew, I'm trying to like guess their astrology because, right, that's what I do.
That's always
And there was
fun.
one guy in his crew. I was like, this guy has got to be a ridiculous amount of Sagittarius with a Sagittarius rising because he is so stupid optimistic. He's like, oh, it's okay, it'll work out. We'll do this and we'll do this and it'll work out just fine. Like that's his philosophy about everything. Like they're stuck in the desert of the Peruvian Andes in like nowhere is there anything, and they've got these electric vehicles and they just hit a rock and he's like, it's okay, we'll just move this rock, it's all good.
We just moved this rock.
What the heck, dude? Like it's okay to go, aw shit, once in a while. But he's just ridiculously optimistic. And I love it, but at the same time going, well, that's not realistic. But
Yeah.
that's really what a lot of Sagittarius energy is. And when Pluto's going through there, this is going to be a time where you have to take a look at your ridiculous optimism and go,
Yeah.
maybe I should take it down just a notch or two.
Yeah.
Because Pluto will go, you can't keep living with these rose colored glasses. You got to take them off and see the reality of life. And sometimes life isn't all about joyousness and fun. And I'm not saying don't be joyful or fun or optimistic. But Pluto just asks you to look on the underside, right? Like when you pick up a chunk of wood or a rock and all of a sudden there's like a whole world of bugs underneath there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to look at the other side and see what's in the darkness, what's happening underneath there. You know, the surface of the rock could be all cool and pretty, but look underneath and like, ooh, there might be a whole other thing you didn't even think about. So I think
Yeah.
optimism is a wonderful trait to have. Don't get me wrong. I love being stupid optimistic too. But you do have to recognize that it can get you into trouble. And Pluto
Yeah.
asks you to take a look at your optimism.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe
For
put it
sure.
on the shelf for just a little bit.
Yeah. And the ninth house also represents religion.
Yeah.
So that comes to mind that having something, some really, like if you have natally Pluto in your ninth house, I do wonder if you like how you the like the spiritual or religious part of you, how that is looking. If
I
you like,
imagine you would be transformed a lot by almost converting religions, right? Or letting go of a religion that you were born with or
yeah,
came into, and then letting go of that and discovering something completely different. I imagine there'd
yeah,
be a huge transformation within religion. Maybe you weren't religious and now you became religious or something to that effect, right? I can picture
yeah,
a friend of mine was actually raised in one of the most notorious sex cults, and so her whole life was this cultish religion that she was in until she was like 22 and was able to get out of it. But I imagine that's the type of Pluto transformation that would
yeah,
happen in that kind of energy in that house, is these ideologies and your philosophy about life completely transforms, right? She was taught this one thing and this is how the world is and this is what you need to be, and then she got out of it and realized, oh wow, there's a whole other thing. I know for us over here in the US, we have a religion, the Amish, and the Amish folks are very, very exclusive with other people, and very, they have their very tight knit community and the way they do things. And I know there's a couple places in the US where people who want to get out of that go to basically go to the ex-Amish area where they kind of learn how to integrate into the rest of American culture and American society without that religious institution kind of pounding on them. So I'm picturing again that would be a ninth house Pluto energy, is this removal of the way you were raised in religion or with a religion. That'd be my guess.
Yeah. And I'm also sort of I'm just imagining someone also preaching, like someone trying to like convert people religiously.
Yeah.
And that could be a ninth house pitch, just
Oh,
like
for
talking
sure.
about, yeah, trying to convert people into these ideas that are yeah, sect-like ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and it does rule learning and higher education. So, with any ninth house planets, the kind of concept is you do a lot of learning, and then ideally you teach what you've learned, right? That's
Mm.
kind of the Sagittarian energy. My dad's got lots of Sagittarius. He's been a teacher most of his life. And it's very much this need to know and this need to take in information, and then it transforms you with that Pluto, and then you would then teach others. So again, like you said, like preachers for sure, like pulling people in to their whatever. And we're not cutting religion down by any means. This is
No.
not against religion. We're just explaining how this energy could look. I have no qualms if you want to be religious or if you don't want to be religious. That's totally up to you. But there are people who very much find comfort and safety within their religion, and there's a lot of people who absolutely don't find comfort and safety in their religion.
Mm.
And I think Pluto usually is the planet that plays a big role in that some way, somehow, whether it's natally or transiting or,
Yeah.
hitting one of the planets in there. I think
Yeah.
Pluto definitely is going to be active in that transformation process around religion and also travel.
Yeah.
Travel. There might be some people who suddenly sell everything they own and just up and start a nomadic life, and they live in an RV in the desert suddenly, right? That could
For sure.
easily be a Pluto transit or a Pluto energy in the ninth house for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. I think that's all for Sagittarius. Anything else you can think about with that ninth house Sag?
Uh, no, I find it a very interesting placement.
I do too.
Because Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, is so optimistic and joyful, and then you have this super intense, powerful planet, Pluto.
Destroy and create energy
Yeah. So
within
those two
this like
together,
happiness
they
planet or
don't fit
happiness
in my
house.
brain, but so that will make it a very interesting
Yeah.
mix.
Yeah. I think it could be pretty hard for people to have that placement natally with that intense optimism,
Yeah.
and Pluto almost because it's so undercurrent,
Mm.
right? You're not consciously aware that this is something that's taking place. So you could be transforming and not even really want to be transforming. You want to stay all roses and happiness, and
Yeah.
you can't.
No, you can't.
Nope. Nope.
Interesting. I would like someone with Pluto in the ninth house to
Yeah.
give us a comment or send us an email about how it shows up in their life. Because yeah,
Please do. We would love to hear from you if this is your natal placement. Like,
yeah,
tell us how this has shown up for you.
mm,
We're the curious beings.
very.
Very curious. And then we move
Okay.
to the 10th house. And the 10th house starts with your what's called MC, which is the median coli or coli. And I like to, some people call it the midheaven. And I like to call it my career, the MC. But it's also the house of reputation, how you contribute to the world, contribution,
Yeah.
your ambition, and your purpose. So it's not just career. There's a lot of other applications to this house, but it's ruled by Capricorn, and Capricorn is an earth sign, so this is an earth house.
Mm,
So with Pluto in an earth house, you're going to have some hard work ahead of you. That's
yeah.
definitely what earth signs are known for, especially Capricorn. It's kind of the hardest working, I feel, of the zodiac. It really just,
Mm.
Capricorns just like to work hard, don't they, Helena?
Yeah. That's all we want to do. Just work, work. Honestly, it makes me so happy to like have projects and work.
Doesn't it though? Work, work, work. Reputation is important though too. So you, with a natal Pluto or even a transiting Pluto in your 10th house, you may be transforming your reputation and how people see you and how you show up in your career. Maybe you completely shift careers.
Hmm.
Um, Currently, my husband is experiencing this transit. Pluto
Oh.
went over the top of his MC, and then it retrograded back into his ninth house. And now he's learning more and learning more. So he started to change careers. He actually decided to pull back from what he was doing and stay home more with the children and let me do my career more. So he pulled back to do more farming and parenting more full time, and then just take some jobs on the side. And now, as Pluto is back into his ninth house, he's learning. He's taking
Hmm.
online classes. He's going through all kinds of stuff to basically completely shift his career away from trades and technical and home building and electrical kind of stuff, hands on stuff, into shamanism, meditation, Tai Chi, and Qigong. So he's like 180, like complete 180. So
Yeah.
he's investing in a school called the Four Winds where he's learning all about shamanistic healing. Like I think it's super sexy. Like I'm fine with it. But I can see where most people in this situation, if their husband was doing this, they'd be like, oh my God, he's lost his marbles. Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean you're going to quit this kind of job where you're making all this money and to be a
Hmm.
healing shaman? Like, what?
Yeah.
Right? But I'm,
Shaking up the foundations.
yep, but I'm Aquarius enough to go, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yay,
Yeah.
you. But so as it's in his ninth house now with the retrograde, he's learning, and then it's just turned stationary, went back, is going back the right way, and it'll go back over his career house again. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing when it shifts back into the 10th house, which for him is in Capricorn, he is going to like really completely shift all the way. Right? Like
Hmm.
he did the little shift and then it went back like learn more, and now it's going to be the big shift. I can feel
Yeah.
it coming. He
Yeah.
wants
Yeah.
to get out of completely out of what he's doing
Hmm.
and really get more into that healing realm and being of service in a different way. So Capricorn loves to be of service, and
Yeah.
Pluto's going to make sure that you are doing it properly and doing it in the way that's true to you. So you're going to have to transform. So he's been of service to people for most of his life, and now he's shifting how he's doing that. So
Hmm.
that's what that's looking like for him. His
Hmm.
career is shifting, his ambitions are shifting, his reputation is shifting. He's really going very deep inside himself to shift the way he handles his family, the way he manages conflict. It's really cool to see, and it's frankly pretty damn attractive.
Yeah. I see the 10th house so much like yeah, just like I just see plain like flat ground, and then Pluto coming in is really shaking up that ground. So I can see like what you said, that a lot of other people would be really, really freaked out about it, because it's it's an earthquake,
It
pretty
is.
much. Yeah.
It
Shaking
is.
up everything, like tearing up the foundation,
I
and
love that
creating a new one.
analogy of an earthquake because that's exactly what it is. But I don't have
Mm.
any earth in my chart. I'm in a hot air balloon, so that earthquake don't bother me at
Doesn't
all.
affect you. You can just watch it from above.
I do. I just
Yeah.
like wave at everybody, like you guys don't hit that rock's coming. Don't let it hit you. That's super funny. I really like that description. I think it's very accurate because when he came to me and said, "Hey, I have this intuitive hit and I think I have this drive and I've connected with spirit and I feel like I'm supposed to quit my job and support you." And I was like, "What? Wait, what? Huh?" Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Did a
Mm.
Capricorn a triple Capricorn just tell me he wants to quit his job?
Mm.
Are you feeling okay? Right? And the first thing I did when he said that was pulled up his chart. It was the very
Yeah.
first. I was like, just a minute. Just a minute. Like, I had to like see what was going on. And then I was like, oh, Pluto is transiting this. And he's like, what's that mean? I'm like, let's look into it more, shall we?
Yeah.
And it was an earthquake. But again, because I'm not earthy, it didn't bother me. But I can see where if I was any other kind of partner, that would have screwed up our
If you
relationship.
was a Taurus, then you would have been freaked out probably.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
Because that is how we contribute to life and society and to our families and all of that. And for him to completely shift his purpose,
Mm.
like, didn't quite make sense, right? It wasn't logical. And it's lucky that I don't really care about that shit. That's nice.
Okay. Should I read what
Yeah,
Stephen
yeah.
Ford says about Pluto in the 10th house?
Tell us.
So he says that the 10th house pits are hypocrisy, failure, mere glitz, and tyranny.
Hypocrisy. Hang on, let's pause on that one.
Mm.
Interesting.
Yes.
How would someone be a hypocrite? Well,
So, because he says that the 10th house arena is status, career, okay, destiny, leadership. So I guess the pitfalls could be that you using your leadership in a not truthful way.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yep. I can see that again. Scorpio
Mm.
rules secrets and undercurrents. Yeah, and destroying things and, breaking them down. So yeah, I can see where if you were a leader in your community and you had this high status and then all of a sudden you shift completely and you leave that, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's say you are a CEO at something and then you leave that to do something
Mm.
else, very much could look like being a hypocrite or that
Mm.
hypocrisy. Oh yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about that. Did you hear about that person in the States? This woman called something I can't remember, and she had all these people invest a lot of money in this medical thing. That remember this thing she had? You could use just
Okay.
one drop of blood to to check if you were sick in any way,
Okay.
and she knew all of these powerful people and she was getting loads of money from investors and she kept on doing this, but because I saw a documentary about her, people who were working for her, they knew that this was all false, it was not happening. So she just had this surface of like, yeah, and she was on the cover of like a lot of magazines, like the most powerful woman this year, and then it all crumbled because people realized it was fake. Or like she was not delivering. The company was not delivering what they said they
Yeah.
would deliver, and it was all the machines that they were using was not working.
Yeah. Yeah. I could. Yeah.
I
I
imagine
totally.
that she could have had Pluto in her 10th house,
Yep.
like
That
using her
feels like that
leadership.
energy.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Mm.
Oh, and again, if any of our listeners or people tuning in have these placements, please feel free to shoot us an email or a comment and let us know, because we love seeing. The thing is with astrology, the energy can manifest in so many ways, right? There's a general area that it manifests, but it can show up in any number of ways in that area.
Yeah.
So with this 10th house, there's going to be an, a realm of the career, reputation,
Mm.
ambition, purpose kind of thing. But I mean, man, that's still a broad category.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it could just show up as you having difficulty with work,
Yeah. Yeah, for
pretty
sure.
much.
For
Yeah.
sure. Interesting.
Uh, yeah, but yeah, also remember we have to remember that Pluto is a really powerful planet and like the battery, so it's not all doom and gloom. Um,
No, no, it's. I just love to think of it as transforming. Like, what
yeah,
can you transform? Like my husband, he's not quitting. He's just transforming into something else. He's just
mm,
really following his purpose. Finally, he's almost like transforming into who he's supposed to be,
yeah,
is what I view it as.
yeah,
Like, this is who he is in his soul, and what he came to do is to heal people on a deeper level. And again, Scorpio and Pluto rule depth. And so he's here to heal people on a deeper level and serve them on a deeper level, and not just do home repairs or building things, right? Which is
yeah.
great to be of service in that way. It's been phenomenal. But he wants more meaning, and that's really where that comes in. For sure.
Mm.
For sure.
Yeah, so I just read in this book under the chapter "You're distorting wound" about Pluto in the 10th house,
Hmm.
and he says, since you were very small, you have felt that you were born to do something big and important,
Yeah,
and it goes on and on. But just there, I feel like, oof, that's a heavy burden,
yeah, that
and
is.
I really get Pluto in the 10th house here. It's like, you know, you have this big transformation and big battery and powerful thing in the house of your career.
Yeah.
So you sort of have this burden of like, oh my God, I know I'm gonna do something huge, and I need to do it. It can't be, I can't be having like a normal career. I have to do something grand. I'm gonna change the world. And if I don't, what's gonna happen?
It's an intense pressure, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
Whew. I wonder how many celebrities have that. We'll have to go through and look.
Yeah.
Which celebrities have Pluto in the 10th house? Because I'm curious. Because there are some of them, like, I can think off the top of my head, like Leonardo DiCaprio, right? He's
Mm.
very, very, very much into like environmentalism and really making a statement in environmentalism and changing the way people think about the environment and things like that, right? There's got to be quite a few celebrities who really have this drive behind them to make these big impacts.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we got two
Mm.
left,
We
two
do.
houses left, the 11th and the 12th, which happen to be, if I had favorite houses, I would have to say it's probably the 5th and then the 11th and 12th.
Oh,
And
really?
I really like these houses. I don't know, well, I have planets there, but
Yeah, no, me too. I think the 12th house is a favorite. The 7th house is fascinating.
yeah.
Not a favorite though. But and the first house.
You like the first?
I do. Maybe
Interesting.
because I have a really big first house.
You do. You do. We'll have to talk about house favorites in another episode.
Yeah.
I like that. So Aquarius rules the 11th, which I think is probably my favorite sign. There's such weirdos.
They
I
are.
love me some Aquarian. My sun sign and my Mercury are both in the 11th, so I feel like I really identify with 11th house energy.
Mm.
This is the house that rules community and society and groups, group endeavors, and just doing things for the good of humanity. Right. So I'm
Mm.
like, it's such an altruistic house. It's like, oh, I want to improve things. I want to make things better than the way they were before I got there.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that energy. It rules friends, but not necessarily close knit friends.
Mm.
Friends more like who your tribe is,
Yeah.
like the extended friends.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like a futuristic house. It rules the internet or technology, all of that fun stuff. So with Pluto there, what's Stephen have to say about that?
So he says the 11th house pits social overextension,
Oh yeah.
wasting time with the wrong crowd.
Oh yeah. I can see that one. Big time.
Yeah, social overextension.
Yeah.
Okay, and he said the 11th house arena is, yeah, networking, group identification, setting priorities.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So when you've got Pluto transiting or natally in this house, you're going to really experience a transformation in your groups of friends, the who you spend your time with, and your endeavors of contributing to society, right?
Mm.
Contributing. It's different than the 10th house. The 10th house I think is more of like um career oriented, where this is more group people oriented, right? This is like the job, and this is the people. So
Mm.
they're similar in the fact that it's out there energy. It's putting our energy out to the masses. But the 11th is more really takes into consideration the people, where the
Mm.
10th house takes into consideration the work.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I interpret that. Do you
Mm.
agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And I'm just also thinking about this social overextension, and
Yeah,
because
that's
you
an
have,
interesting phrase.
yeah, it is. I'm imagining someone just wanting to, yeah, because 11th house is so much about, yeah, the chosen family, or like work people, just the people around you, like you said. And having yourself, like just spread to very, very, very thin butter over a huge area.
Yeah.
I guess that's sort of what Pluto could represent. And also, I'm thinking about, because Pluto is, yeah, like destruction as well. So I'm seeing someone growing up and like not really fitting in with the crowds.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because Aquarian is an energy that just kind of feels weird, right? Like you don't really feel like you fit in with any particular crowd. You're just kind of
yeah,
you can flitter among a whole bunch of different ones. So, for example, when I was in um, middle school and high school, I had not one particular group. I actually like jumped to all of the various groups. There was not anybody I really fit in with, and it was very transformative in general for me to go from one group to another and see how this group thinks versus this group, and see what they're talking about versus what they're talking about. And I think with Pluto in Aquarius, you've got this transformation that keeps happening every time you're with a different group. Like you
yeah.
experience their energy and you're like you like their ideas and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to take that and I'm going to transform myself." And then you go to another group and you're like, "Oh, I like that. I'm going to take that and transform myself." And Aquarius is an air sign, so it's pretty
Mm,
flexible and it
mm,
doesn't mind change. Air signs really do well with change. It's fixed, but it's still air. And
mm,
it's I always like to think of Aquarius as like a fan. You can turn the setting to 2 and you can let it at 2, or you can swivel it and it can move around, right? But it's still pretty constant and consistent. Or you can turn it off or whatever. But
mm.
it's still changeable. It's still a changeable energy.
Yeah,
And I think with Pluto there to destroy or break down or recreate, every time you'd be with these groups or experience these people, you would just keep changing pretty rapidly, I
yeah.
imagine, too.
But I also imagine them, these people, sort of coming into a new group setting and very much changing the dynamics
Changing
of the
the group.
group, and
Changing
they
the group.
might not everyone might not respond very like positively about that.
Yeah,
So you will be seen as a disruptor, I think, a
for
little
sure.
bit.
For
Yeah.
sure. I think that's probably the main energy people would feel in that group is that you, number one, come in with this intensity to change things. Like you probably enjoy that.
Yeah, and you can't help it.
Yeah, no. And then you come in and you're like, oh, I like your ideas, but let's do this instead. And you just kind
Mm,
of take over and
mm,
change the whole way that the board of directors does things
mm,
or, whatever group
mm.
you're in.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
also it might not be visible either. You could also be a person who it could be like like just your presence there. Doesn't have to be like you convincing people to do something. You could just be your presence because you're bringing the energy of Pluto in the 11th house. So
Yes.
your presence will change and disrupt the group setting.
Yeah.
But it will be since you came there, so people will know that like, oh, it was this person.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. Or maybe even because Pluto's so good at digging out secrets and lies, you might be in that group and all of a sudden uh, stuff comes out that was hidden before, right? Like maybe
Yeah.
so and so is sleeping with the boss or whatever,
Mm,
right? Like there's some secrets that
yeah.
suddenly your presence just
Yeah.
disrupts and you didn't even mean to, you didn't consciously do it, like you just are at the right place at the right time with the right energy and then bammo this giant secret just erupt
Yeah.
from this group and everyone's like, whoa, what happened? And you're like, sorry, that was me. I get
Yeah.
that. I have energy like similar to that and I'm aware of it that this is something I do, but it's not necessarily something I can control. So I try to like warn people, be like, caution, Laura causes change. So if you don't
Yeah.
want any, like, don't listen to me, don't watch what I'm doing, and stay away.
Yeah. Stay away. So you have the sun and what else in the 11th house?
Mercury.
Mercury and the
So how I
sun.
think and communicate, and then my vibrant life force and vitality and of
Yeah.
who I am. So I'm very driven to contribute to society and my community and improve my community in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's what our farm is doing with the organic stuff we provide. And we want to create a new event center on our farm and a small cafe with healthy foods and stuff like that. So I want to improve my community in that
Mm.
way, and that's kind of how I do it. But Pluto, I think, is something that could be a little bit more intense in the changes
Yeah.
that it creates.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, should we move on to the
Yeah,
last?
let's go to the last
Your
guy.
favorite house?
My favorite.
Our favorite house.
I really love Pisces energy. I do.
No, me too. Me too.
I do. I know so many people don't know how to interpret Pisces. And hold on one second, please. All right, so the Pisces 12th house.
Yep.
This is an interesting house, I think, is misinterpreted quite a bit.
Hmm.
And
How do people think people interpret it?
well, I'm not. It's an energy that's hard to describe, right? Because it's behind the veil or behind the curtain, right? And I think our human minds tend to struggle with that concept, right? We're very
Yep.
like logical and we see it and then we believe it kind of thing, right? I like to think of Pisces energy as very like Jesus energy, right? He could connect with spirit. His father was God, right? He had all kinds of like magic powers, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of Pisces energy. So it's hidden energy, it's spiritual connection, it rules past lives or subconscious energy. So with my moon there, when I'm working with people, I very much suddenly just know things emotionally very much that I feel like I shouldn't know. Like all of a sudden I'll just know something about a person or my client or whatever and I'll say it to them and they're like, "How did you know that?" That's kind of my special gift, right?
Yeah.
It's also aloneness. It's the house where you're most likely to feel alone. If you have planets there, if you have energy in that realm, it's not that you are alone. You just kind of feel alone.
Yeah.
And it rules the things that we can't touch. Psychic abilities, right? What are psychic abilities? It's stuff we can't touch. It's all here, right? It's just stuff we just kind of know. So with Pluto, intense undercurrents and transformation and change in this psychic realm,
Hidden.
right? I actually
Yeah.
just did a reading for a woman yesterday at the event I was at, and she had Pluto in her 12th house. And with the way I interpret that, any planets in the 12th house, the way I personally as an astrologer have learned to interpret that is that that is energy you came into this life with, right? Like we were born with this little as a little baby and like picture a little baby suitcase with a bunch of baggage in it, right? And when you have a planet in the 12th house or any planets, you came here to stop that trauma or those issues or whatever it is from going forward.
Yeah.
So with Pluto in her 12th house, and it happened to be in Scorpio as well,
Mm.
I really interpreted this for her as an energy that she is here to transform the way she parents. It was connected with her moon in the mothering sign of Cancer. And I said, this is a lineage issue. This is something like there's been trauma, there's been
Yeah.
hidden secrets in your generational line. And it's affected the way that you've been parented and the way you parent. And I knew this because of all the connections with the other planets. And she immediately was like, oh my God, yes, 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 yes. And so it was very important that I explained to her how powerful Pluto is and that it's our personal power. And that's where she needs to transform. But it's also a hard energy to access, you know, because it is hidden from us and it
Yeah.
is behind the veil and stuff like that. So when I interpret anything in the 12th house, I typically tell people you need to be alone with yourself. You need to in order to access that energy, you really need to be alone to really kind of pull it out of there. And it's also kind of the darkness realm. Pisces rules dreams.
Yeah.
And I think with Pluto ruling Scorpio and Pisces ruling dreams, or with Pisces with the dreams and Scorpio ruling darkness, I think these people really do well in the dark.
Yeah.
Really
For
do
sure.
well.
For sure.
And one of the things I asked her, I said, have you ever tried meditating? Oh, we were talking about writing. I said, have you tried writing your story? Because she had a lot of writing aspects in her chart. And she said, yeah. And I said, have you ever tried writing with your eyes closed and in the dark at night? And she's like, no. I said, what if you got like, my daughter makes these little eye covers. I said, what if you put a little eye cover on and you just sat and typed and just let it flow out of you? But like we're in darkness, right? Maybe with a candle lit. And she's like, that sounds amazing. She thought that was the greatest suggestion ever. And I thought, well, that's so funny because it's probably one of the weirdest suggestions given anyone.
So strange, yeah.
But
Yeah.
she resonated with it immediately. She's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that feels good. That feels right.
Mm.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I also imagine someone like because the 12th house is so much going inside and going within. So I imagine that these people really can, yeah, they need to really turn inside and like meditate,
Yeah.
and there they will find these powers, the battery, and like everything that like they'll be able to dig out a lot of information about themselves,
Yeah.
but they have to be like in silence, going within. Like I imagine a monk or something.
Yeah. Yeah. My sister-in-law has this placement with Pluto in her 12th house and in Scorpio, and she is definitely here to transform a lot of generational garbage and not
Yeah,
let it go through to the next generation. She is the catalyst for the transformation process.
yeah,
She's also a very intense person, very intense, but she doesn't realize it. To her, she's
yeah,
just like walking around all normal, and to everybody else, she walks in the room and everyone's like, "Oh, whoa." And you don't even know what it is about her. She's
yeah.
just got this intense energy that's
Mm.
almost hidden from everybody. You can just feel it subterranean and subconsciously,
Yeah, sort
right?
of mysterious. Like the eighth
Yeah.
house is mysterious in one way, but the 12th house is mysterious in another way, in sort of like in a oblivious way. Like you don't
Yes.
know, you're hiding something,
Yes.
but you sort of are.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
until I did a reading with her, she's like, that's really how people see me?" I was like, "Girl, when I first met you, I didn't know what to think. Like, I couldn't read you at all, which is very frustrating for me because I feel like I've got a good gauge on people's energy. I
yeah,
couldn't figure her out because she's got this scorpionic energy, which is under the water,
yeah,
but this in this Pisces house, which is nebulous and spiritual." And I was
yeah.
like,
So under the water, behind a veil.
"What?" I
Add some fog to that water.
Yeah, yeah. She's been in my
Yeah,
life for like 10 years now and I really love her. But I told her, I was like, you freaked me out at first.
yeah,
Like, really? I was like, oh, for the good 3 years. I was like, I don't know what to think. Like, I did not like her. That wasn't it. I just didn't know what to think because I could
yeah.
feel things, but I didn't know what I was feeling. It
Mm,
was really an interesting time and very, I would say for me, frustrating because I like to figure people out. And
yeah.
then once I dove into her chart, I was like, oh, there it is. Oh.
There it is.
So it is a very hidden energy, but I think it's
Mm,
a really powerful energy once you realize you have it. Like once you realize you got Pluto in the 12th house, you can recognize that in a past life, you were a powerful person.
for
You were
sure.
a really powerful person who people listened to.
Mm,
And now in this life, you come into this life with your power almost kind of diminished and hidden from you, and you almost
mm,
have to like find it again, right? And
yeah.
you have to pull it out of you. A lot of you mentioned meditation. One of the suggestions I also gave to this lady with her reading was go into the bathtub and meditate in the dark.
Yeah.
Like go in the water.
Mm,
She was like, that sounds so amazing.
yeah.
Good. I'm glad you like these very strange suggestions. But yeah, being alone is a big deal where you can really transform pretty powerfully inside yourself by
Mm,
being alone.
yeah.
What's Stephen have to say about 12th
Uh,
house?
so Stephen says that the 12th house arena is spiritual consciousness, compassion, and self transcendence.
Mm.
Um,
That
and the 12th,
compassion energy for sure is Pisces.
yeah,
Pisces is so compassionate.
yes, yeah, like Jesus again,
Jesus, yep.
just
Yep.
Jesus. And the 12th house pits suffering,
Yeah.
nihilism, spiritual emptiness, or shallowness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the 12th house and Pisces energy can sometimes also turn into like martyrdom and suffering, because you're usually a person who gives, you give so much. So sometimes you give away everything.
Yes. At the detriment of your own health. And I could see
Mm,
people with this placement, if they're not turning to therapy, they'll probably turn to some type of drugs,
mm,
some type of abuse, maybe some type of maybe even like sex, right? Because Pluto rules that, and then
yeah,
Pisces rules checking out.
yeah,
And with Pisces energy, 12th house energy, you either check in or you check out. It's two fish swimming in different directions, and there's not
yes.
like a medium, right? You're
Mm,
either going that way or you're going that way. And it can be a very, very healing sign, healing energy, healing house, or it can be a very, very, very devastating where you check out of life and
mm,
maybe even suicide, right? So I think people with Pluto in the 12th house should be hyper aware of mental health issues and really be very aware that they will need to reach out for help at some point in their life, if not multiple points in their
mm,
life, right?
yeah,
Especially if there's a transit happening where it's activating that Pluto in the 12th. I'm a big one for mental health awareness and suicide awareness. I take tons of classes to help people and let them know again that this is an energy you were born with, and you can either work with it or you can let it destroy you. And again, Pluto is destroy or create. So you can
mm,
create something from this energy, or you can let it destroy you completely, and then you got to come back and try again. And then
yeah,
you'll have an even bigger suitcase this time around,
yeah,
crap to deal with.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it can feel very hidden, and that hidden energy can really take you out. I think really, if you don't have a good support system, if you're not a grounded person, if you don't have an awareness of the energy you're born with, in your birth chart, that's where I love astrology, because it can bring up these hard things. It can bring up these subjects people don't want to talk about. Like, hey, you're prone to suicidal thoughts and depression,
Mm,
right? Let's
mm,
talk about that and be honest. Someone with Pluto in the 12th house very, very much could be in that realm several times in their life, if not throughout their whole life. And that's why having a healthy spiritual practice and having a way to fill their cup and not give from an empty cup is so important. Like,
yeah,
crucial, crucial.
yeah,
When you
and
do fulfill your or fulfill your own bucket, that's when you can have these big spiritual transformations.
yeah, for sure. And I think about this spiritual emptiness, where
Mm.
that comes from. This is one of the things that could happen, is because the 12th house is behind the veil, and so you might not know how to find your spirituality. You might not be able to reach it because it's so hidden,
Yes.
and that could leave you with, like, yeah, spiritual emptiness,
Yeah, wanting
or
something but not
shallowness.
know what you're needing, right? Not know what
Yeah.
you're wanting. You're like, I'm hungry for
Mm,
something, but I don't know what I'm hungry for, right?
yeah,
And it's that spiritual fulfillment, really.
yeah. But I think that these people, if they say, if they're experiencing spiritual emptiness and they don't know how to reach behind that veil for that powerhouse, uh, but once they find a way to do that, they will be so charged and they will go so deep spiritually. It will be so transcending for them.
Yeah.
It will be, and so rewarding, and these people will really, yeah, I just keep imagining like monks or nuns, or yeah, these people who set out on a quest. They go out into the desert and just leave everything behind and just go inwards and try and find something.
I always
And
picture psychic abilities in this realm as
mm,
well. And there's so many people I talk to, and every time they have planets in their 12th house or Pisces, I will say, how how do you receive messages? And I
yeah,
ask them point blank. I don't ask if they receive messages. I ask, how do they show up for you? And it is impressive how many people actually do receive messages and are willing to discuss it once
mm,
they're asked directly. But most people don't talk about that, right?
no,
And I'm actually taking some classes with Matthew Smith in England next week, and he helps people enhance their mediumship abilities and their psychic
oh,
abilities. And one of the things he says is people don't willingly come to this conclusion and that they're psychic. They don't like volunteer for this. They're not like, yeah,
mm,
pick me. I'd like to hear strange voices. and get weird pictures in my head. Like, people don't do that, right? But with Pluto there very much could be a time in your life where there's a transition or a transit happening where all of a sudden that ability is turned on,
Yeah.
right? Maybe Neptune happens, or maybe the sun goes over the top. Something happens where you weren't aware of this ability you had, and then suddenly it's there, and now you're hearing words, or you're getting pictures in your face, and or like somebody's pushing you to go talk to that person about their dead grandma, and you're like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
That is kind of the transformative power of Pluto. Not kind of, that is the transformative power of Pluto. That could be very scary in that 12th house if you don't understand what's happening, or if you come from a religious background where that is frowned upon, to hear
Yeah.
and see pictures and all that fun stuff.
Becoming more and more accepted, but
It is becoming, but there's still a lot of society, a lot, where that is really
no,
taboo.
so scary.
Not okay. But I do think as we enter more into the Aquarian realm, when Pluto transitions into Aquarius next year, I think we're going to see a lot more acceptance in that realm. And I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, because Pluto has been in Capricorn now for how many years?
A long time.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Could it be like 10 years?
It's got to be close to that. Because my son is 13 and he's got a Pluto Capricorn.
Oh, really? So, okay, so more than 13 years then.
Yep. That's a long time.
It is a long time. So everyone that has Capricorn placements, you will have gone through a Pluto transit over your planet.
Yeah.
And go back in the calendar and look up the date, because for sure there will be you will notice something huge there.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100. You can't not put it together. I mean, it is creepy accurate.
Yeah. So I suggest go to astro.com, put in your information, and then you can actually you'll see your natal chart, but you can actually choose also to go back in time to different days, and then see the transits, and see when Pluto transited your sun,
your whatever, and you'll notice
your whatever.
Yeah. Any other words of wisdom for people with Pluto in this time of Halloween? And how do you say it in Sweden?
Alla helgonafton. Say it.
Alla helgonafton?
Afton?
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Perfect.
Not too bad.
That
translates to
All Saints Eve.
All Saints Eve. Okay.
Yeah.
And I really think most cultures celebrate some type of holiday around death. I'm pretty sure there's whether it's Japanese or South America, or I think everybody's got some type of celebratory thing around death. I know my Hispanic friends have the All Saints Day and the Day of the Dead. So I love learning about the other cultures and how they celebrate it. But
shout out Mexico. They do it well over there.
They do.
Yeah.
It's a big shindig. It's a big shindig. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I have had such a good time exploring Pluto through the houses. And if any of our listeners have any questions around this, or would like a reading, or like to, learn more about their Pluto transits, or maybe a hard time in their life they're experiencing, and they'd like to, Helena and I to check it out, we would be happy to dive in and give you our thoughts and our opinions and our interpretation of that. Every astrologer is going to interpret things a little bit differently. The reason I love working with a partner is because you get kind of two different ways of interpreting it in one go. And Helena's got lots of earth, and I've got lots of air, so you get another.
You get a windstorm,
right?
Oh no, a windstorm? You get a sandstorm.
A sandstorm.
That's what I was going to say.
A sandstorm. I love it. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us chat about Pluto in the houses. And we will be back doing some readings and diving into some more astrology with Ram and Goat Astrology. Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in. If you would like to be a part of our show or have a personal reading done with us, email us at ramgoatastrology@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. See you next week.